Brett Dawson from Sellout Crowd here at Paycom Center, where the Thunder wins 129-120 over the New York Knicks on the second night of a back-to-back. The Thunder sweeps the back-to-back, beats the Timberwolves, comes back and beats the Knicks in a really physical, hard-fought game where the Thunder led by as many as 17, but had to fight off a challenge. Only 4 turnovers from the Thunder. That was a huge difference in the game against a very physical, switching Knicks defense. Pretty impressive showing. And on a night when Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had 36 points, might seem a little strange to talk about all the help he got and how much the load was lightened for him, but huge nights from Jalen Williams, J-Dub. He had 36 to match Shai. That's a career high for Jalen Williams. And 22 points from Chet Holmgren, whose impact was really, as it so often is, beyond those 22 points. 5 rebounds, 4 blocks. Really impactful. And those guys, the 3 of them, combined to score 34 of OKC's 36 fourth quarter points as they kind of held off the Knicks. This is a team that the Knicks really fought very hard. They are so physical. They make life so tough on you. Julius Randle in particular is such a load in the post. Isaiah Hartenstein is a guy who's very physical and a challenge for your big guys. They stick with you off screens. They're just a really, really physical team. So for the Thunder to kind of come up big, have a lot of juice left in the fourth quarter on the second night of a back-to-back, and a night when it looked like their energy was flagging just a little bit in the third, a little bit leaning a little bit heavily on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's isolation plays, to come back in that fourth quarter, have a lot of energy, have a lot of contributions from a bunch of different guys, really meaningful. After the game, Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams talked about some of the growth in their two-man game when those guys are sharing the court early in second quarters, early in fourth quarters. As Mark Daigneault said, lots of different lineups with those two guys, but they were kind of the common denominators. And earlier in the season, the Thunder losing a lot of those minutes with those two guys on the floor. And what Jalen Williams said that was so interesting was it's not that those guys were being selfish, it was that they were figuring each other out, and that's where some of the bumpiness came from. Some of that is starting to smooth out now as they get more comfortable with each other. Chet is a guy who can set a screen, and then he can be a pick and pop guy or a pick and roll guy. So when is he going to do that? When does he want to do that? Where does J-Dub kind of want the ball? Chet figuring those things out. Those things are starting to come together a little bit for those guys, and that's really important, Mark Daigneault said, for 2 reasons. One, it diversifies your offense. It makes you a little bit more difficult to guard, a little more challenging when you have a bunch of different guys who can make plays offensively and carry a load like those two guys did for that big early stretch of the fourth quarter. The second thing, and almost as big, maybe bigger in some ways, is that it does take some of the load off of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. It felt very much like he was carrying too much of that in the third quarter tonight. And he was able to get a little bit of rest at the start of the fourth like he always does, but the Thunder's offense didn't crater without him, and sometimes we see that happen. Big-time minutes from those two guys, really game-changing minutes from them. The Thunder, on the second night of a back-to-back, some different rotations early in the game. Mark Daigneault used a lot of different guys early, but went away from that, went more in the second half with a regular rotation. He's going to have to figure out what he's doing a little bit with that as this January comes and goes. Thunder going to have a really game-heavy January, back-to-back heavy January. And so figuring out where those bench minutes are going to come from, who some of those guys are who are going to play, who don't always get a lot of minutes, where they're going to find breathers for the stars. You saw a little bit of tinkering with that tonight. That'll be something that continues on into January as the Thunder kind of figures out how to handle this really game-intensive schedule. This is what is going to happen for a lot of teams in January, particularly for OKC. The in-season tournament kind of tweaked the schedule, so the Thunder played about 4, 5, 6 games fewer at this point this season than they had last season. That's just because of some quirks in the schedule created mostly by that in-season tournament. So January is going to be wild. Still a little time left here at the end of December, but you could see OKC kind of prepping for what's coming in the next month. The Thunder gets a day off after a back-to-back, naturally, so no practice. They get to relax a little bit, but also travel, going to Denver. That's going to be a tough one. Coming off a back-to-back, going to altitude and playing a Nuggets team that's obviously going to be very motivated after OKC went in there and won a game this month on a last-second shot by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Could be without Aaron Gordon, who's in a unique injury situation from a dog bite over the holiday. We'll see what happens. Jalen Williams for the Thunder, Jay Will, had a hip contusion, played limited minutes tonight and left the game, did not return. We'll see what his status is. But a big game in Denver, a tough game in Denver after this very physical back-to-back against 2 big, powerful teams. Good wins for the Thunder. We'll see what happens from here. We'll have coverage of all this here at selloutcrowd.com and on my YouTube page, so check us out.